Okay, morning everyone. And morning and uh let me turn on. Okay, so we would still need to use the section 3 PowerPoint handout, like the final part and writing. So yesterday we finished the section with the practice on citations and referencing. Right, so do you still remember how to do it? Yeah, at least you know the rules, right? That is the most important thing. You know what you need to do, and then just refer to the guidelines or the PowerPoint slides if you ever need to do something like that, right? And that will be good enough. And we will move on to some more advanced writing skills today. Right. So I trust that you will have this ability after 3 days, right? And this is our fourth day of practice. And no worries, I will show you examples before we actually do it. So this is where we ended up with, like citing last names, if you see the author, or organization name if you can only identify the organization. And here is just to emphasize why it is so important to learn those things. Right? And the reason is to avoid plagiarism. So you have heard of the term plagiarism, yeah? But do you actually know what that means? Copying, right? And you are halfly correct, I would say, because maybe the first one, the first point, right? You fully understand this definition. Right? So you are using other people's words or ideas, meaning like copying, without acknowledgement, right? Without mentioning the source, so pretending this is your own work. Of course, that's a problem. Right? But then the second definition is also something you need to pay attention to. That is, right, do you see the bracket part here? Even if the source is cited. Yeah, so that means even if you use the techniques I told you yesterday, right, you include proper citation. But then if you copy word for word, direct copying, or following too closely, meaning people feel, oh, the words look similar, it is still the problem. All right, that means you have to rephrase the thing that really looks quite different from the original. Okay? And that is why, like, there is a time you practice writing topic sentences and concluding sentences. Said like, don't just directly copy, from the question. Maybe it's about culturally diversity New York. Yeah? So if you see like from the original, they use the term culturally diverse. Right? What if you use at least change it to a noun form, cultural diversity, or cultural differences, or there are many differences in terms of the culture. It's just like you try to make it as different as you can. Okay? So instead of copying the word and make it like look really similar. Okay? So that is the reason why we have to practice paraphrasing. And plagiarism is such a serious problem because it is like stealing, but in the academic world. Right? And stealing in the real world is like criminal offense, and it's plagiarism in the academic world, right, is like equally serious. And now let's test if you know whether something can be done or not. Okay, so you would see a list of 13 statements, and then put a tick next to the one you find. Okay, it seems acceptable. It seems okay, right? Or unacceptable, right? For a few of them, maybe. Okay, so do it first, and then you can cross check your answers with your classmates later. Okay, so I think when I review the answer, most of you will be surprised. And I am actually surprised to see your answers. The fact is, there are only two are acceptable. Most are not okay. Yeah, so if you actually think some are okay, it's a problem. Yeah. So I give you a bit of just two are acceptable. Yeah. Okay, so can you pick out like 11 of them and keep only two? All right, so I hope you don't kick out the correct ones. I kind of heard that you're challenging some of the possibly correct ones. All right, and the actual answer is 6 and 12 are correct. Ah, okay. Yeah, I will explain a little bit. Right, so I think some are pretty obvious, right? Like number one, copy a paragraph from the original text word for word, like everything is unacceptable. Yeah, and then number two, so this one, right, paraphrase something using your own word. That means you don't steal some, and then you link the copied ones from the original text. It's like, okay, so I think you may want your mobile phone, okay, and it is expensive. I don't steal it, but I keep this one. Okay, so it's like partial stealing is also not okay. Yeah, so you still need to actively paraphrase everything, no matter what. Right, so it's like number three. It's not just only the keywords. We have mentioned it's about the sentence structure, the overall feeling, and that is why we practice summarizing. You don't keep the subheading, right? So subheading is important. So I keep everything from the subheading, and then I don't keep the content. It's not like that. We have to rephrase not just the keywords, but also the examples, supporting details, yeah, and even the linking words. We will also try to change them. Like maybe they use moreover. I use not only, but also a different sentence structure to link things. Yeah. So this is something to remember. And we'll practice paraphrasing later, and you'll get to feel like how to change things. And number four, I take something directly from other people's essay, right? So it's not okay. And number four actually happens when, maybe not in this university, but it's something that happens rather common in different universities. It's like nowadays we use social media a lot. And some students, they are so excited, they finish the essay or assignment, and then they upload that stuff to the social media platform. And then some students who haven't finished the assignment copy something. That actually affects both of them. Right? The one who copied and the one who is being copied, because the overlap rate will be shown for both of them. Right? So that's why nowadays we would encourage you. So you can tell people you have finished your homework, but don't show the work directly to others. All right. So this is something to remember. And number 5, take a quotation. Quotation here means a direct quote. And then you don't give double quotation marks or make it clear as a direct quote. Then it is not okay. So that is why we mentioned there is a particular format for direct quotes, double quotation marks, plus what else? Yes, author's first name, year of publication, these are basics, but then we need the quotation marks and page number. Yes, if we cannot find page number, we need, yes, paragraph number. We need to count it if it is in like online source. And then number 6, this is correct, and that is why we mentioned in-text citation format within the text and also reference list. In some standards, they call it bibliography. It's the same thing, reference list, bibliography. And then number 7, use a lot of quotes without a good reason, or without a proper flow. It's not okay. So we try to minimize the use of direct quotes, actually, and use it only when necessary. And number 8 and 9 is what we call self-plagiarism. So we want to draw your awareness to that. I don't think that this is my work. I do it. I don't copy anyone else's work. It's still not okay. All right. So I won't copy my previously published articles and then publish something again. Okay. So this is not things that are encouraged in the academic field, because then people will just keep copying their own stuff, and then there will be no progress, no improvement. And then so even it's like your assignment from the previous semester, right? At least you properly mention the source. If you're using a textbook, to mention it again. Yeah. And sometimes maybe you are talking about similar things, rephrase them. Okay, so use different wording to talk about similar ideas. And then number 10, well, this is a bit tricky. I originally thought it's okay, but the thing is, I think the sentence here is not like discouraging students to discuss ideas. The thing is, don't just trust. Right? The thing is, don't just trust anyone else's ideas and just put it in your writing. This is more about the thing. You can definitely discuss, but your classmates are not scholars who have published their ideas to papers. Okay? And don't assume what they're saying is perfectly okay. That can be used as an example. And in academic writing, we don't accept personal examples or like random hearsay from around the world. Right? So we need concrete sources to support your ideas. So once you discuss it, maybe you search from Google Scholar, from EduLibrary, whether these are the examples you can also use. Right? These are the things that people have done research on. Okay? So this is more about it. And then number 11, misspelling authors' names. I often see that in students' paper. And this causes the problem. Like sometimes we cannot relate the in-text citation with the reference list, because obviously they look like 2 different entries. And misspelling, okay, in some cases, in a strict sense, they will count it as plagiarism, because we don't find the source anywhere, because the author's name is wrong. And then that means you are actually writing something, you copy something without properly acknowledging them. Right? So that is why it can be a case of plagiarism. So spell them correctly. And then number 12, obviously, is correct. A full list of reference at the end. And then number 13, we understand we use online tools to help our writing, to proofread our writing. Use it like to your assistants. You don't just directly translate everything without carefully thinking or processing the content yourself. And sometimes you need to change the words too. And we can also detect that, basically. There are many tools for that. Okay. And now let's move on to the actual technique of paraphrasing. We have mentioned the importance of doing it, then how to do it. Right? So paraphrasing is like using your own words to represent what the source means. So we practice summarizing, I think 2 days before. And a paraphrase is actually a summary plus restatement. Right? So it's not just things concise. You also try to represent the meaning in your own words. And there are actually some pros, some advantages, because you're showing that you make an effort to understand what the original author is saying, and your work will look more scholarly, more professional, because you make an attempt by digesting the original meaning and give you the control over writing. It's unlike direct quotes, where you just keep using other people's words, other people's linkage. So you're gaining control over your own writing. But the con basically is that it's very difficult, right? I know some teachers may actually find that difficult, right? Because it's not something that we tend to use. So what we like is we see something that looks okay, yeah. So they look decent. We want to directly use it, but now you have to. Like, you can use it, but you have to change the way it is being presented. So it is challenging. And before I show you the paraphrasing examples, we can then look exactly at the differences between non-academic writing and academic writing. Right. So here you will see a table, like giving you 5 blanks, right, where you can compare how text 1 is different from text 2. Right. So you can have a look at text 1, right, which is a magazine with a lady, and then text 2, right, is like with the term rapid communication and abstract. So both are about dating or online dating. Right? I mean, the words can be really small. Right? Let me maybe show the screen to you. So I didn't expect that they print it like this. Okay. So anyway, maybe just judging from the style, right, the way of writing, right, then you can then try to tell, okay, how these two texts might be different in terms of language and style. If the words for this is too small, just maybe focus more on this one. Right? Look at the abstract. All right. For the magazine, I know it can be interesting, but you don't need to look at every single word. Kind of compare the two texts. Yeah, so you can draw some examples. I talk to your classmates how the two texts are different. All right, so can I hear what you guys have discussed? Maybe again, I pass the mic to different roles, starting from your group. Be the representative. Yeah. Possible difference in everything, but
Okay. The first one is probably a reveal. It's very subjective. And I think the sense is pretty relaxing, and very emotional, but the second one is very objective. We can see the it seems like it's very formal, coming with the year of the publication, the publisher, and it targets with a certain group, with people with a low anxiety, higher anxiety, and I think it's gonna come up with some new experiments, comparison statistics. So it's pretty very academic. Yeah.
I think the newspaper it can shows the writers or the expressors feelings, but the thesis can't express the writer's feeling. And I think the personification is different. The newspaper usually use the first person, but the thesis usually use the third person or the omniscient person.
I think the structure is different. The first passage, just to in order to attract readers to read this passage, so it will give some it will give some make the readers to puzzle the outcome. But the second passage, it will demonstrate the ideas to the readers and tell them what they will say in the following test.
I mean, like judging from the time you spend on the two texts, you can tell the first one is more interesting, right? And then, so maybe they are using questions, yeah, or some we say hooks, HOOKS, eye-catching lines, to attract your attention. And then it's like question answer format, right? But then, we have mentioned that in academic papers there is a certain way of doing it: introduction, background, method, and then results, and then discussion. And so we don't put down the like most eye-catching finding right at the beginning. Maybe when newspapers try to talk about a certain scientific finding, they will do it like that. Right? When they try to interpret what some researchers have done. But you have to be careful when you when you read those papers, because they often exaggerate a little bit. They will say, "Oh, scientists have now found a cure for cancer." Okay, but then they actually have only tested something, like whether one certain little drug is effective for a small group of people. Okay, so that is like how you need to be careful about the way news present the ideas. And oh, and actually, I think when I was doing research with my PhD supervisor, she once told me that like some organizations use her name and even the university name, but then she has never been interviewed by that organization. Right? So they can do something like this and say, "Oh, this person actually said our products are okay," like trying to draw some linkage. So that is why we have to be very like careful when interpreting those stuff. And yeah, all of you guys have mentioned very good points, right? And I believe I heard like subjective versus objective, things like that. But I just point out 5 of them, right, to draw your attention to it. Informal versus formal. That is why it is very, very important for you to understand what vocabulary falls into the formal group. Yeah, and this cannot be done just within our 4 days of workshop. You have to keep reading, read more academic papers, know what words people tend to use. Then you start to get a feeling, oh, they never use those words. And these are seem to be the structures they like to use. Right? Then you will enlarge your formal vocabulary bank. And then the second difference, shorter words and simpler sentence structure versus use of nominalization. So this is a very big word. Nominalization here means nouns or noun forms, noun phrases, right? And formal writing always like to use nouns, right, to show something like in a more professional sense. Although it's not a must, right, they tend to do it. Right? And then some of you already mentioned like first person versus third person. So we avoid using personal pronouns I, you, we in academic papers actually. And then more active voice is being used in informal articles, and more passive voice will be used in formal articles. Like that just to avoid using personal pronouns, right? And then the focus will be more on the thing or the procedure or the action if we use passive voice. And the context is different, right? So these are the things that you can start to pay attention to when you read more academic papers. And then now, okay, we will look at the skills that are commonly required in writing an academic paper. So avoiding plagiarism, quoting, using direct quotes, paraphrasing, summarizing, synthesizing. We'll mention that a little bit later today. Use of reporting verbs. Yesterday, I asked you to brainstorm as many as you can. Yeah, so this is also important. In-text citations and referencing skills, APA style, we talked about that yesterday. So we'll incorporate them as well into today's writing practice. Yeah, because when I give you like one sentence from an original source, then you try to rephrase it, you definitely need to mention the citation, right? And if you want to say Smith and then think of a reporting verb that can link the idea together, maybe you want to use the word argued, yeah, you think this is a pretty strong argument, or you just want to use a neutral word mentioned, it's okay. Yeah, so still we would use the final 2 points that we covered already, and then incorporate that to our paraphrasing practice. So I will give you some examples before you do it yourself. And the tips for paraphrasing are mainly these 5. Number 1, change the structure as much as you can. And when you do this, you can make it already like look instantly different from the original. Okay? Because if you just change from one word to another, like maybe, I don't know, the university is big, right? This is a simple sentence. And then you change it to the university is large, right? It looks very similar. Yeah, and since the sentence structure is the same, then if you change it to, you don't start with the university, right? You add a little bit of something like there is a large university, right? Or you say when I visit visit this district, I see a pretty large university. So you are changing the sentence structure. Maybe you add a phrase before that, or you at least played around with what starts the sentence, what subject you would use for a sentence, and you don't just directly use the same subject, right? So sentence structure is something you can work on. Or like if there are 2 sentences, you can always see whether there are certain relationship between the 2 sentences. Then you can use different connecting words to join them. Maybe in the original, it's like the university is large, and then I have to study something there today. Yeah, then maybe you would join them if there is a causal relationship. Yeah, because the university, or you change it to other words, because the campus is quite large and they offer many programs. It seems that I can take part in many different studies. And so I try to change the words, and then I draw the linkage like because, and then it is a result. Maybe it's not a because case. They are 2 different things. Like today, I visited a large university, Crystal. Afterwards, I took part in some programs at that university. Right? So I'm still referring to ideas from those bits, but then I add linking words. Right? So this is how you change the structure. And then number 2, make sure you keep the same meaning. Okay, so if you change the meaning entirely, then don't cite it. Okay, you're not anyway talking about that. So make sure the meaning is not changed, but then the way you present it is changed. And then number 3, use different words when possible. Here, can you see the word synonyms under number 3, the second line? synonyms. You know what that means? Yes. Okay. So, I mean, there are words that can be hard to find synonyms, like the specialized words, and like calcium. Okay, if you can think of that, tell me. Okay, like maybe theory, you change it to concept, but proper nouns. Yeah, so you don't really need to change it. People understand. Like, or Europe, World Health Organization. You don't need to rephrase it like Organization of World Health. That sounds very weird. You don't change people's names. Or even like social media. You don't need or social media platforms. You don't need to say, okay, platforms where we use social media. Okay, that is very like unnecessary. All right, don't do that. Keep the term. It's okay. Change the other parts. Right? And number family. Well, even for numbers, I think sometimes you can do something about it. Like, I mean, you can keep 50% if it is just a figure. But like if they're talking about there is a trend, like an increasing trend from 30% to 60%, maybe you can say now that the number is doubled, right? So you can use words to show what it means. Or in some cases, I would encourage my students, like if you don't always show statistics, actual figures, you can just talk about things in a more general sense. Maybe it's a significant increase or it's a steady growth, like not a very rapid growth, but steady. Yeah, or there is a moderate growth, right? So these are terms that you can use instead of keeping the exact number. Right? So these are different ways that you can do it. Or the years, of course, you can keep 1984, but maybe I can say like 40 years ago. Yeah, I don't need to always say in 1984, right? Or 4 decades ago. Yeah, so there are terms that you can use to replace that. And then the length, well, I don't fully agree with this one. Right? I mean, it's up to you. Right? Is that normally it's not like very different from the original, but then it depends on how much information you want to keep. Right? But for the sake of simplicity, for beginning writers, maybe you keep it like roughly the same. It's up to you. Okay. So here, let's look at the examples. On the left part, you see the original text. So there are 2 examples. We look at the first one. There is a source by Wong and Chen, right? So since here we're just talking about paraphrasing, we kind of ignore that, but actually you need to add that. All right, so you need to say Wong and Chen suggest 2012 suggested that. Right? If you're not using any direct quotes, unless you keep something, then you mention a page number as well. So can you please spend a bit of time looking at this original text first? If there are any unfamiliar words, check the meaning. So understanding the meaning is step 1. If you don't understand it, how can you use different words or different structures to replace it, right? So check the meaning. Make sure you fully understand what the sentence means. Okay, so can anyone tell me what's the meaning of this word, reference? Respect, yes. And then what about proverbial? Yeah, well known, or any other words? Famous, right? Yeah. And then so the simplest way of changing it is of course like the respect. You change it to another word already. The respect of the Chinese for the written word is well known. But then this would be what we call at the beginning. You're still following the original too closely. You're just changing a bit of the words, and then you keep everything almost the same. So you're risking plagiarism if you only do that. That is why after you understand, okay, so it is about like how Chinese use respective writing, use written words, is something very famous. Right. So actually when I explain it, I use a different structure already. And so you can think of that yourself in your own mind. You explain it and then you write it down in a different way. And that is what I would do. After you understand it fully, cover it or don't look at the original and then try to write it in your own way. Right? Then you will find it easier not to follow exactly the same by using the respect, following very strictly how you start a sentence. So you can say it is a well-known fact, or I can even simply say it is well-known that, right? So it is well-known that the Chinese, or here you can add the Chinese people, right? And then respect their writing. Here the word respect is actually used as a verb. Yeah, so that is why the structure can be so different. It's not the respect of, but then they respect their writing. Instead of written word, we change it to writing. The next part, the script is not only the most complex, but also the most ancient system of writing still in use today. So it is using the structure, not only, but also. I don't really need to keep that. Just two things in parallel, right? So they just use the word and to link it. It is the most difficult and the oldest replacing ancient system, a form of writing, or the oldest writing form. Yeah, so sometimes we also change this, and then in current use, replacing today. Okay? And of course, there are many different things like today, nowadays, up to you. And then for this one, the second one, you may think, oh, it's almost impossible to change. So many terms already, but still, we can add a bit of stuff, moving the final part to the front, right, to change the sentence structure. So here, the original sets encyclopedias, you know what they are, right? Nowadays, I don't think we really read. I saw them in my grandparents' house. Okay, so many of them. I don't think they have read that anyway. Okay, so a lot of them starting from A and then to Z, right, something like this. Encyclopedias, dictionaries, paper, and painting. So 4 of them. But you can keep these words, but then change the structure. Were all Chinese inventions. Then you can say among the inventions of the Chinese were these 4 things. Or we can even do a bit of saying like there were 4 major inventions made by the Chinese, comma, namely, comma, and then these 4, right? So there are actually tons of ways of doing it. Keep practicing, and then you start to figure out like how you can change the sentence structure. So we start by practicing with like just changing one sentence. Of course, in the actual world, when you're doing your assignment, you change the entire paper, but we start from one sentence, as a practice. So what by one sentence, I mean as short as this. You can also sometimes do this little practice by yourself. You read an article, you read a sentence that is potentially interesting. Then even when you're not doing any particular assignment or you don't really need to use that, think how you would change the sentence in another form. Right, so I just read this sentence, 5 words. Cognitive performance declines with age. Do you know what that means? Cognitive performance. It's something about your brain, your thoughts, and then declines with age, meaning then your performance will perform worse. Yeah, exactly. So when you're explaining things, you're already using different words. Right, so practice by thinking of what this means. If I have to explain this to a friend, what would I say? Right, this is paraphrasing already. Okay, and one way of doing it, and now we incorporate citation. So this is the in-text, and then this is the full one. You will say Han and because it's within a sentence, we spelled it out. And Cattell, and then the year 1966, a very old source, believe that. Right, so we use the word believed, hinting we don't fully agree with that. So they believe that. All right. So, but it's okay. Like you can use that. Believe that OH adversely affected. Adversely means negatively. Okay, and it's a very academic word. Use it. It's a good word. Adversely affected one's cognition. So at least we change the word cognitive to a noun, cognition. Right? And I like how you guys explain. You can definitely say maybe as indicated by Horn and Cattell, 1966, comma, when a person became older. I don't want to use the word get older, get is informal, so I kind of change it. It became older, comma, he or she or they, might, we don't want to make it very definite. They might, all right, we're not offending anyone. They might have have a worsened performance in their thinking processes. Okay, then I don't even want to use the word cognition. Or in their processing, more general. A worsened, they may have worsened thinking processes. Worsened is a adjective, right? We don't use the word bad, right? That is subjective. Okay, so you see, like we would try to incorporate reporting verbs. We think of what tense we use. It's a very old source. So maybe I use an old, past tense. They did it long time ago. And what you actually believe in, and then you will say, guys, some people, or some researchers, for example, Horn and Cattell believe that old age adversely affected one's cognition. And this essay would argue that old age and cognition are not entirely associated, right? And you can then present your own stance. So what about a full paragraph? Okay, then we would, in this case, do actually the same. We change the words to synonyms. We use some connecting words, but then we also need to take care of the transition. So can you please use some time to read the original paragraph first, and then I'll explain the paraphrase. So after you finish reading the original, then you can move on to read the my suggested paraphrase and see how things are being changed. So you'll see that first of all, in the paraphrase, we would need to remove all the informal wording, and the personal pronouns like you should, or your, so these words cannot be kept. And then I would show you the paraphrase here. Okay, I also underline the parts that are related. If you want to do the same, you can also highlight that. So for the red parts, these are corresponding to each other. In the original, okay, they use the word overuse quotation. And in the paraphrase, we change it to quote excessively. And remember the word excessive, we talk about that as like too much. Yeah, but too much is a bit informal, so excessively, right? A much more academic word. And then only about 10% of your final manuscript. Right? That means very little. You can choose to keep the figure 10%. And do you see that in the paraphrase? We don't really have to do that. We use the phrase what? Like keep quoted material down to a desirable level. Okay, so desirable, again, a very good word. You don't say to a good level. What is good, right? To a low level, it's okay, but how low? Desirable, yeah, maybe you can mention to a desirable level, comma, which is 10%. Right? You can mention that if you want to keep that, right? And then you should, we'll change it to, yes, it is essential. And there are other words you can use, right? What other words? Crucial, necessary, significant, vital, important. Now, or you can even add a bit of adverbs. Yeah, it is largely significant or something like this. Okay, so a lot of people use it. And then limit the amount of exact transcribing. We say minimize. Right, minimize is also a good word. Keep it to a minimum level. All right, so these are the ways that you can change it. So you will see that, oh, it suddenly already looks very different. Why is the whole thing can look so different? It's about digesting the information. So do you see that in the original, the term note taking, right? Taking notes here has appeared twice. Okay, so in the original, first line and last line. So students frequently overuse direct quotes when they take notes. And so they just directly make the quotes when they take notes. And so problem will appear. And then in the suggestion, they say you should control how much you make direct quotes when you take notes. Right? So then you see that it's all about taking notes. Then you try to enhance the cohesion, the linkage, by just mentioning it once. Okay? And then that would be a way of linking the ideas and showing you fully understand the original. Okay, so in the start of this paraphrase, they don't really mention taking notes. It's just students often quote excessively. And then since the problem usually, you see the word usually, not always, okay, we add it like less strong, usually originates, meaning the root problem is that originates during note taking, then it is essential people do that less. So note taking will then only appear once here. So linking the problem and the solution. And of course, don't forget to cite the source. Okay? So after you have made so much effort paraphrasing the original and then you forgot the citation, then plagiarism. Okay, so please make sure you do it. So even though it looks so different from the original now, the idea is from the source. So you still have to mention it. Okay, so I keep emphasizing it just so you know. Right? After paraphrasing, add citation. So doing these two things will help you avoid plagiarism. And now, right, you should be ready, right, to do some practice. Right? It's very, very short. Okay, don't worry. Just the italic part. All right. So just 2 sentences first. Read the following, and then you can decide, first of all, whether you want to keep something. I'm not asking the whole thing as a direct quote, but maybe some words, 1 or 2 words or a phrase as direct quote, or you want to change the whole thing as a whole by paraphrasing. Okay, so feel free to do it as long as you can justify. It's fine. So for number 1, we give you a bit of a context. So you're trying to, in your paper, to talk about ways for teachers to facilitate learning. And then you read the source by Moore, 2010 on page 5, giving you the page number. It's like in case you want to use direct quotes, then you can use that. They teach in various ways. They set tasks for pupils. They try to motivate pupils to help them, etc. So imagine your paper, you want to mention that. Then how would you rephrase it? Okay. Then number 2, okay, actually a bit like the definition, but don't use the entire quote. Okay, you can use a little bit. So you're trying to define motivation, okay, from this source. is that motivation is an internal state that arouses, directs, and maintains behavior. And how can you use this piece of information in your writing if you want to have a definition for motivation? Okay, so can you please try to work on these two? Maybe to make it slightly easier for you as your first attempt. For number two, you can keep the whole sentence. But then if you keep the whole sentence, how can you make this a direct quote properly in your essay? Okay. But then for the first one, try to paraphrase a little more. Okay, so maybe now you get the feeling, even rephrasing one sentence is not an easy task, right? So that is why we need to keep practicing. Otherwise, how can you rephrase the entire text? Okay, then it would take up days, right? Okay, so I show you, okay, some suggested ways, right, of these two. Then don't think of that as like standard answer, perfect answer. We try to keep thinking how we can do it, right? And number one, oops, I will show from the next PowerPoint. And so actually this one is suggested to be paraphrased because they use mostly common English words, right? No special terms. So paraphrasing is a better idea. One way of doing it is don't start with they. Right? How can your readers know in your essay what they refers to? And so that is a little trick. Right? So teachers, right? They teach in various ways. Then teachers help students in different ways. In various ways, of course, the ways you can use even another word like methods, right? Or using different approaches. I may use it like that. And then one way of doing this is to change the sentences because they always start with they do something, they do something. Change it to a noun form. Right? And then this is a possible way, like set tasks for students to task design, try to motivate pupils' encouragement. Then you must ensure you are using nouns consistently, right? And then help them timely help, control the performances, then monitoring performances. Adjourn is also a noun phrase and then improve the understanding and skills, then skill and knowledge enhancement, right? And then at the end, you have the source because I don't use any direct quotes here, so you don't need the page number, all right? And then this one, I told you we accept direct quotes. Then you can say as suggested by, and then this writer as suggested by Wu Folk 2010, and then comma, double quotation mark. And you keep everything. Motivation is an internal state that arouses, directs, and maintains behavior. Close the double quotation mark at the page number. The page number can be after the double quotation mark or after 2010. Okay, both are okay. And then full stop after the bracket. Right? But then I need to mention, I'm not asking you for whatever definition, then use a direct quote. Right? This is just to show you can do it in a way like this. You may say, as suggested by Woolfolk 2010, motivation can be defined as people's internal condition. So the first part, you are trying to rephrase it, right? And then that, and then starting from that onwards or from this one arouses these three words, you put in double quotation marks, right? So it can be like this. And are you confident in trying this too? Okay, so this one is too long. I will actually skip this. And but I want you to have a look and then I explain a little bit to you. So can you look at number 3 first? It's about writing on a topic on collaboration, collaborative learning. So after you finish reading it, explain this to your classmate verbally. Okay, so very technical for collaboration. Can you try to use your own word to explain it to your classmates then? Okay, so is your explanation even longer than the original? Okay, yeah. So that's actually why we accept partial direct quotes. In some cases, you see things like this, like many terms, many ideas. So for some of them, you make quotes, and then the others, okay, so explaining maybe how important this is, or this is a foundation, then you add your own words. Right, so this is why I want you to practice thinking how to use that. It's a situation. It's not as short as this. There is a dot 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 there. Okay, it's too long to quote it. Okay, so the first part and the last part are paraphrases, and then the middle part are quotes. Okay, so you can say like collaboration is about accommodating others. Right, accommodating others is like after you read this, you know what this is talking about, and then some of the words starting from respecting your members, then here you keep the quote, and then comma, which is the foundation for collaborative learning. Okay, so it's like a bit of a trick. You explain it, but then you don't use the quote to drive your writing. Okay, so the beginning and the end part is still what you think, and then that is how you make use of it. Okay. Then the middle part, right? Then you use the last name, year, and page number. So the last one, you guys are teachers, so I hope you will know how to paraphrase this. It's about instruction, direct instruction teaching approach. Now you read this, and see which one like paraphrase, quotes, or a mix would be the best. Okay. And can you try to write one yourself? So again, this one actually just one sentence. At this time, write it down. Okay, so for this one, you may see some terms like science facts, mathematics, computation. So if you really keep them, I think is okay. Yeah, so these are terms, but these are not exactly, proper nouns. So maybe safer ways, if you decide to keep them, then you use direct quotes for the four terms. And I show you a version that quotes are not used at all, right? So we can still try to change it a little bit, okay? And so only paraphrasing is used. Direct instruction, this term can be kept, right? Applies best, right? We can change it to is most effective. And then to the teaching of basic skills, you can say in teaching fundamental knowledge and skills, or basic fundamental. Fundamental is also an academic word. Clearly structured knowledge and essential skills. Right? So in subjects like, and then science, facts, mathematics, computation, we can combine them like science and mathematics. I don't think you lose a lot of meaning there. And then reading vocabulary and grammar rules, change it to learning of vocabulary and grammar rules. Then you don't really need the direct quotes there. Okay. So at the end, put the citation. All right. And this is how we work on one single sentence. Then after the break, I will try to look at like a longer version and how we do it, like synthesize information, keep something, move something. All right. So have the break first. Okay, so before we tried out like the use of synonyms, a change of sentence structure to enhance our paraphrasing skills, I want to show you one short video to like avoid some students going to an extreme. Yeah, so it's like when I keep emphasizing, yeah, and some of you just now also asked me similar questions like, should I change this word or have I changed this enough? Like I'm very impressed. Like you work very hard to change the words to synonyms, and we definitely encourage that. And then I hope you don't become like the person that I'm going to show you in the video, okay, who try to change basically every single word in a paper, okay, to make it look professional and make it look better. Okay, so because that may affect the meaning, or some words don't really fit, even though you think, oh, these two words mean similar, but then when you put maybe word A in a sentence, it is okay, but word B, it won't fit. Okay, so we have to check that as well. So let's first watch this short video, right, to let you know what's going on. Has anyone here ever watched Friends? Okay, so this is what I'm going to show you. Friends, and you know the characters, but I still want to briefly explain to you who they are. This is the part where Monica and Chandler wanted to have a baby, but then for some reasons they cannot have their own baby, so they need to adopt one. And then they want to ask their friends for help to write an adoption letter, like a recommendation letter, and to say, oh, they're good parents. Yeah. And then Joey is a very good friend. He wants to help, right? And then, but then for those who watch this episode, you know Joey is not good at English. Yeah, I don't know why. He's a native speaker. You see, like written English is not like the skill that all native people can master, right? And that's why he seeked help from this guy Ross. Right? Ross is a university professor, right, who teach him the tricks that you can use the computer. There is a thesaurus function. You know the word thesaurus? Right? Thesaurus starting with T. This one, THESAURUS. Is a dictionary for you to check synonyms. Yeah, so we have that online. It like thesaurus. Yeah, so thesaurus dictionary. So thesaurus.com, like this one, and actually many more. I will show you, like you type in one word, they give you synonyms and antonyms. Antonyms means words with opposite meaning. Yeah, so then Ross taught Joey, and you can highlight in the document for word, and then they show you synonyms. Yeah, so online thesaurus. And then Joey was very happy and changed every single word in his letter. Okay, and then let's see how it goes.
Agency needs letters of recommendation, and we were wondering if you would write one for us. Of course, I'd be honored. Thanks. Thank you.
I think there's been an oversight. Joe, we would have asked you. We just thought you wouldn't be interested.
Yeah, it's just that we don't think of you as really being so much with the words.
Wait, oh, hey.
Clearly, we were wrong.
Look, I got a lot of nice stuff to say about you guys, okay? And I know how much you want to have a baby, and I would love to help you get one.
You know what? Enjoy, want you to do it.
Thank you. All right, let me see how I'm going to start. Dear baby adoption decider people. So excited about your letter.
Sure, what you working on?
Oh, Monica Chandler's recommendation. I want it to sound smart, but I don't know any big words or anything.
Well, why don't you use your thesaurus?
What'd I just say?
Watch. Here, you highlight the word you want to change, go under tools, and the thesaurus generates, it gives a whole list of choices. You can pick the word that sounds smartest.
Oh, that's great. I'm smart. No, I'm brainy, bright, clever. I love this thing. Look out, ladies. Joey Tribbiani's got the whole package. understand. Some of the words a little too sophisticated for you.
It doesn't make any sense.
Of course it does. It's smart. I used a thesaurus.
On every word?
What was this sentence originally?
Oh, they are warm, nice people with big hearts.
And that became their humid, prepossessing Homo sapiens with full-sized aortic pumps.
Yeah, and hey, I really mean it too.
Right, Joey, I don't think we can use this.
Why not?
Well, because you signed it baby kangaroo Tribbiani.
Joey, right? The synonym, like Joey synonym is baby kangaroo. So he even changed his name to sound smarter for no reason. Yeah.
Hey, why don't you stop worrying about sounding smart and just be yourself?
You know what? You don't need a thesaurus. Just write from here. Your full-sized aortic pump.
Okay, so that is why we keep saying don't change things, don't go to the extreme. Right? And some students may wonder, oh, there is a thesaurus. Then I try to change my words to make it sound nicer. Okay, so this is a common thing we do. Right? When I was an undergraduate student, I tried to do that too. Like because I don't know many words, okay? But then that can be risky. Like here is the example from the video. Like they're warm, nice people with big hearts, and then warm and actually humid is not an exact synonym, but then maybe Joey C words like that are all about describing the weather. Yeah, so warm and humid can both be used to describe the weather. But then warm can be used to describe people as well, while humid cannot. Okay, so and need to know that. And like prepossessing is like a very old English word. And then Homo sapiens, when you study, I don't know, anthropology, okay, maybe they use that. And then hearts, like aortic pumps, I guess is a medical term. Like when you see a doctor, okay, when they do a full scan for you, okay, they may be using that. But then you don't talk to friends like this, yeah. And that is why using synonym is also things that we need to learn about. And now, moving on to paraphrasing paragraphs. And so you can find that in your handout as well. So we try to look at one example. For number one, we do it for you. And then 2 to 4, I will give you time to do it later. So this time is like a little paragraph, more than one sentence. So can you please look at this original first? Now, after you finish reading the original, then you can have a look at the suggested answer. Yeah, just a few lines here. Can you see that in the original, there are like three separate sentences. Yeah. And then in this paraphrase, I'm not saying you have to do this. I always combining three sentences into one. But then when you are figuring out what the meaning of a paragraph is like, you can always do that, like combine meaning, yeah, and make it in a simpler sentence. So in the original, it says like about Mexican pilots landing the airplanes in France, and then they use English. And then German physicists, they also use English. And then Japanese executives, they use English. So you get the idea, like three different groups of people that use English in different situations. So here, like they are trying not to, like this time I show you an example. We don't put the citation at the end, we put it at the beginning. Yeah, so you can do this. Hasman, 2001, illustrates. Feel free to use any different reporting verbs when they're suitable. And then English is used by Mexicans. Can you see that? The active voice is being changed to passive. Yeah, so as simple as that. Original is like Mexicans, and the ground controllers use English, and here English is used by Mexicans when communicating with the French. Yeah, actually, they're talking to people in France. Okay, so I know some other university people are joining soon. Yeah, and here, so they are talking like to people in France. Then you can change it to the French. Okay? And then in the aviation industry. So of course, provided you know this word, right? So we are talking about what pilots do. Then it is like in the aviation industry. So you see the different words are used to replace the original meaning in the first sentence. And then like instead of starting the next sentence, like so maybe you can use and when it is not too long and the meaning is parallel. Right. So I'm not saying again, you need to just combine them. Right? You can always like separate them into a different sentence. And then Germans also use English when presenting scientific research, because you know that in the original they're saying like alert the international scientific community to new discoveries. Then three words, presenting scientific research, can be used to replace that. And then while here, okay, so this word while, I want to mention a little about this. Like it is a very useful word. You may use it a lot, and there are different meanings when you use it. So what is the meaning that you know about while? Although, yeah, and meanwhile, yes, exactly. And here is like almost like at the same time. Yeah, so it's not like completely different, but when you use while, it can mean although, right? And then here, while, a good way to link like different groups of people together, while the Japanese use it for business negotiations, right? So this is a noun term, business negotiation, to replace the verb phrase, conduct business with the entrepreneurs and they negotiate. Okay, so the tricks are active to passive, maybe verb to noun or the other way around, and then using fewer words to replace longer words. Okay? And then this sentence structure is also changed. And let's see whether you can do this. Right? So all the topics are kind of related to English use and something that you also understand. And this is from the source 2009. And I will see if you can paraphrase it. Okay, so please try it out. Remember, if you don't know the meaning of any words in the original, make sure you check them out first. Okay, I want you to tell your classmates sitting around you one thing. That is, like the first sentence, you see the phrase is being left behind. Yeah, so how did you paraphrase this part? Yeah, share your answers with your classmates. Don't say you cannot think, or just keep using the same word, not acceptable. Okay. Another word in the second sentence, find avenues. What words did you use to replace that? Share that with your classmates as well. What? Yeah, yeah. Yes. Is they are possible? And then one more thing is in the original, there are two separate sentences. Then what about in your paraphrase? How many sentences do you have? One. Okay, so if it is one, did you use any linking words? Right. So what linking words did you use to? Right, due to although, and as long as it makes sense, all right, then maybe right that would be fine. So think of ways to link the two parts together. You can read it again and find the logic between the two sentences. First part is about problems, right? Potential problems that Hong Kong learners face. And then the second part is about possible ways out, right? Yeah, therefore, is a possible word. Or if it is suitable for you, you may even reverse the order. I mean, change the sequence. I want to highlight, like, it is very important for them to find ways out. Yeah. And it is because, right, the reason, right? Then your writing will look very different from the original. Okay. So let's look at this together. Like this while means what? And or although. Although, yes, comparing Hong Kong learners with learners in the rest of the world, right? So while the rest of the non-English speaking world, including mainland China, is busy learning and applying English, so you still haven't seen the subject of the sentence. And so the subject is actually Hong Kong in the sentence. And then we may, if you want to emphasize in your paraphrase, you highlight this. Okay? Put Hong Kong as like the beginning of the sentence. Okay? So this is one of the many ways. And then in the original, the first sentence is being left behind. This is active voice or passive voice. Passive, yes. Then we may change it to active if you use some other words to replace it. Then one possible answer is like Hong Kong is lagging behind. Yeah, lag behind is like being left behind. Yeah, so that's an active. Is lagging behind other places, for example, mainland China. So you're replacing the whole thing, the long word, right, the rest of the world, right, and then including mainland China. With regard to, again, a formal phrase, with regard to meaning concerning that aspect, right? With regard to is English language skills. And then just now, I asked you to think the logic between the two sentences is like a cause and an effect, right? Or problem solution. So you may use the word comma, so, or full stop, therefore, comma, therefore is even more formal, or consequently, as a result, even better. Right? People in Hong Kong need to find, some of you say ways, methods, or remember this word, opportunities, yeah, that bring positive meaning even, right? Find opportunities to improve their spoken and written English. And this would replace English in speech and writing. Yeah, so we use adjectives. And since it's only one single sentence, so we can put a citation right at the end here. Okay, I would say avenues and opportunities are not exact synonyms, but then the meaning is kept. Right? So sometimes we do it like that. And you may see that we don't keep every single bit of information, like young people. You don't see the word young in the paraphrase. It's not exactly important. It's just Hong Kong people, Hong Kong learners, it's fine. But if you keep it, it's also okay. So more confident in doing second one. Okay, yes. Okay, then next one. Right, this one I really want you to try it out because it's about reporting numbers. Yeah, so imagine you read a paper, they share with you questionnaire findings. So here is about a questionnaire survey. Right, they did it with 2,030 people, and then asking people to give a rating on a 6-point scale. 6 point is like maybe 1 to 6 or 0 to 5, something like this. And then maybe if you really strongly against something, then you give a 1, and then you strongly agree with something, you give a 6. Yeah, so this is a 6-point scale, and the average rating is 5.08 here, 5.08. Then the different aspects, I mean, for written English, they give 5.08 on average, and then different aspects, they give a different number. So if you have to report that you see something from this paper, and you want to use that in your own paper, that's pretty common, then what would you do? Right? So can you please try to paraphrase this yourself? The hint is you can keep the number, but the way you present it should be different from the original. Okay, so do you understand what this sentence means? Yeah, so which one is viewed as the most important? Yeah, written English, yes. And then followed by spoken Cantonese. Yeah, so when they say followed by, that means they are what? The other four are? Yeah, at least according to the interviewees, they are less important, right? Then you are already using these words to describe the situation. And so here is one possible way of paraphrasing. You can take a screenshot or take a photo of this. Instead of saying the findings were derived from a questionnaire survey, we see a passive voice and we think whether we can change it to active voice, right? Then to change it to active, then you directly mention the researchers. So Evans and Zhang, 2010, conducted a survey. Then you can change it to active with 2030 executives, right, or people or interviewees, doesn't matter, most of whom were ethnic Chinese. And then just now we use the like with regard to, or another word, concerning the perception of the importance of languages. So if you are writing or reporting this questionnaire survey result in your paper, I would suggest you have like a topic sentence like this, or start with a sentence clearly letting people know what the survey is about. Yeah, so brief information, who did this, how many participants, what is the survey is for or is about, right? Then it would be very clear it's about importance of languages. Then it's easy for you to mention. So this one is most important, and then the other are less important. So on A, right, you cannot skip this. 6-point scale is a must. Okay, or you use another way to present it because otherwise people don't know the numbers. Right, what's it meant by 5.08? Right, so what's the basis? Right, so on a 6-point scale, they found that these people thought that English writing skills, we also change it a little bit. Of course, you can keep it as written English. But if you keep it, do you remember? We change it to single quotation mark. Okay, because double quotation mark would be direct quote, unless you're using direct quotes. But this one is more about a term. English writing skills, then you can keep the number 5.08 were more important than the others, right? English speaking skills and spoken Chinese. With the last two viewed as less significant. So it's just showing 5 things, but you use your own words. You know it's about how important something is. Okay, so most important, less important, the least important. So if you finish jotting down this one, get number 4's original. Just read the original. I will explain to you how to do this by showing you the suggested answer. Do you know what Hong Kong English is like? I don't know how to demonstrate it though, but yeah, you have heard of that, right? Like I'm hungry. So are you happy? Happy lang, something like this. Adding a bit of Hong Kong Cantonese and English, yeah, but still makes sense. People understand, and the accent will be different. I don't think they say accent. Accent. Style. So it is recorded. I cannot demonstrate that much, right? Even letters, they can use Hong Kong English, like, how do you pronounce HIJK? The next letter is L. Yeah. But if you have a different accent, you say L. Yeah. So L. Yeah. So same for R. Is like they would say alo. The different places have their own accents. Yeah. And okay, so now I show you the suggested answer. Right, to demonstrate one thing, that you take a photo first or you write it down first. We can change the order of presenting the different sentences. So in the original, there are 3 sentences, right? The first part, right, saying Hong Kong English has a long history, what it is about. And then the second sentence starting with throughout Asia, right? They're mentioning different local varieties are recognized by linguists. And then the third sentence, even though, right, many linguists will recognize many different varieties, Hong Kong English is not quite recognized, right, or is even viewed as something bad, right? And maybe we can group, right, the 2 parts about Hong Kong English together. Yeah. So just now, we also mentioned this for note taking. We group them together. So here, according to, we can use this phrase, according to Bolton, 2009, a Hong Kong style of English, so you can keep Hong Kong English or the Hong Kong style of English with this distinct accent. Distinct means unique, right? So it's also a word that you can use. Distinct accent and speech patterns has had a long traditions. But, right, so this is the first sentence, and this is the third sentence, right? But tends to be viewed negatively by many people. We don't really use the word bad, right? If you really want to keep this word bad, what can you do? Yeah, negative. Yeah. So this one viewed negatively. But I mean, if you want to write the word bad, like mention it in your own writing, what can you do? Yes, make a direct quote. Okay, so sometimes when you see some words very strong, potentially subjective, use a direct quote. Right, so it's like mentioned by them. Right, so according to Bolton, they said, okay, some people think it's bad English. It's not by you, right? Then you can use that. But you can change the meaning by saying viewed negatively. Or just now we learned one more word. What is that? Starting with A. That is a verb. Not, remember the averse. Yeah. So we can say adversely. Yeah. So adverse consequences, negative consequences. Yes. Right. So now you come up with many, many words in your mind. Okay, so we need to categorize them. So viewed negatively by many people. And then by going back to the part about other varieties, he further adds that. Right. Can you see the word further? Okay, so this is a good linking word. So you don't just present all the information. Feel free to add some linking words, right? If further, and then this one, and actually a good reporting verb, adds that. Like so apart from the thing that he has mentioned, he adds that. Many other Asian forms of English. Okay, so commonly used, this is a very good word, academic word, prevalent. Okay, prevalent, or you can use it as a noun form. Right? People always use that in the introduction of the paper. They will say maybe there is a prevalence of something. Right? Change the ending T to CE. Yeah, or this has become more and more prevalent, right? Meaning more and more popular, more and more common. And this is an academic word. I learned this. Prevalent and acknowledged by researchers. Right? Acknowledge actually replacing the word recognized here. Similar meaning. Okay, so one more thing is about this part. He further adds that it's not just for connecting the ideas. Actually, it has the usage of avoiding plagiarism. Because sometimes when you put forward 2 different ideas, and then this is actually addressed by citation, but can you see that the second part, no citation? And people might kind of challenge you. Okay, so is it from your own idea, general knowledge, or is it from certain sources? Then if you use the word he further asked that, of course you can still mention the citation at the end, Bolton, 2009. Okay, we can have citation in consecutive sentences. It is okay. And sometimes you don't want to do that, and it's obviously still like a linking from what he said before. Then you use this phrase, and you don't need the citation. So it serves two purposes. All right, then now you know paraphrasing. We basically keep almost everything from the original. So you remember sometimes you don't keep everything, then we also need to summarize. Actually, you tried out summarizing things in one of the lessons about RTV, but I show you examples from some extracts. And we can more easily see what information should be kept in a summary and what should not be kept. Basically, the main ideas are kept, the most important things. And you read the text, you highlight them, and make sure you keep those ideas in your paper. Now, the others, you may include them, you may not include them. Okay, then this is what it's like. The example is here for A. Can you read A on your slide or on the screen? Starting from Server, 1997. Okay, a lot of big words here. Actually,